next year. You know, a gathering like this, and I've spoken before in my former role as lieutenant governor, is always so inspiring. I mean, this is the gathering of the most ingenious, brilliant thought leaders who also have great compassion and heart. Because you're not thinking about what's going on in the world today, as so many people do in their careers and their professions. You're thinking about the future and the responsibilities that we all have living in this day and age to the people who we'll probably never, ever get to know. People who live in the future, who perhaps will look back, and I hopefully will look back and say, yes, we are grateful that we have a clean planet to live on because of the people the last century or 2 centuries ago were the visionaries who gathered at places like this. So I put a lot of weight on your shoulders to get this right and to give us the brilliant ideas that'll help charge that path forward, but I have great optimism and hope and confidence in every one of you. And, you know, we're talking about reaffirming our commitment to protecting Mother Earth. Now, Mother Earth has been pretty battered and bruised lately, and when you think about man's assault on Mother Earth, and unfortunately, it mostly is man. I mean, I'm sorry, they built the factories, right? I mean, they did all the smokestacks. I didn't see any women building smokestacks or dumping polluted water. You know what I'm talking about. And I love the men too. So we're good. But just, it's a statement of fact, right? It's man's assault on Mother Earth, and I want to stop that. I want to try to stop that. And, you know, I'm a politician. I understand what that means. People think, oh, you all talk big, right? You all talk big. Yeah, we talk big. Of course we do. But we also, in the state of New York, we act big. We do big things. And there is no challenge, whether it's throughout our history or our current challenges, that we don't meet with an aggressive approach. That's what New Yorkers do. It's in our DNA. Get used to it. But I want to tell you, all of us come to this, and we all come with our own perspectives. What led you to sit in these seats today or be out there around the globe participating in this incredible exchange of ideas? For me, it's deeply personal. It goes back to my childhood, which is a long time ago. I won't name any years, but it's all on Wikipedia, so go figure it out. I grew up in Buffalo. I grew up and was born. Any Bills fans in the audience? Okay, all right. Nice game yesterday, right? I just want to say 35-0 against Miami, but I diverge. My parents started in a trailer park and lived in Lackawanna, like many people do, working class people, and my playground was Lake Erie. At the time, late 60s, early 70s, Lake Erie was a cesspool. I mean, you literally could see the Bethlehem steel plant. By night, the sky was lit up with this lava-like glow because as they were dumping, I don't even know what it was, toxic chemicals into the lake. And at night, you couldn't even imagine that people would be swimming in it by day, except we were. That's where we swam during the day, into this toxic water, unbeknownst to our parents, obviously, I hope. And also, when you drove in a car through Lackawanna, you often couldn't see, and I'm not exaggerating, because you were enveloped in an orange cloud of smoke that had just been discharged from the smokestacks, and people lived in these communities. So it's hard to believe I'm still alive when I think about this, but I'm healthy, I'm good. But so many people did succumb to environmentally induced illnesses. I mean, I grew up hearing every day for years about Love Canal, not far from where we lived. So the environmental movement and the whole idea of Superfunds really emerged out of this environment that I was a child in and was very much paying attention to. And I said to my father, who worked at the steel plant, as did his immigrant father and many others who escaped poverty by working at a steel plant, I said, Dad, didn't people know? Didn't people ask questions? Didn't people wonder why people live like this? He says, we didn't. We didn't. This is just how it was. These were jobs. Nobody knew better. We didn't know we could do better even in the 60s and 70s until we started having more enlightened people and even the beginning of Earth Day. And I was a kid in school starting my first Earth Day club and my ecology club and all those fun things I did as a little activist that I still am today. But that really does have an effect on you, which brings me to today and the depth of my passion for making sure that no one has to live in a contaminated environment anywhere in this state, this country, or this world. So I'm really proud to lead a state that has the nation-leading climate goals. But goals are goals. I want results. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. And I think about what I just dealt with as I've been governor, it'll be 4 weeks tomorrow. It's amazing. And of course, my first challenge, other than the entire subway system shutting down on my 5th day, and that's another story, we got to, I'm not making this up. The first major challenge I had was a environmentally induced climate disaster. If you saw, no matter where you lived, and if you're a New Yorker, you felt this deeply, the skies literally opened up. Hurricane Ida was relentless. The forecasters did not see the track of it coming to the very populated Northeast. I had literally the day before had called the governors of Mississippi and Louisiana to say, any way I can help you. I'm only on the job a couple of days, but we're in New York, we always want to help. The next day, people were calling me. We did not foresee this coming. And what I saw was literally the skies opened up. And was quite extraordinary. It was 1 week earlier, the previous hurricane from the week before. I mean, I feel like I'm living in Florida. We had a Hurricane Henri, dumped nearly 2 inches of rain on Central Park. Broke all records, shattered them. Oh my God, this is once in a 500-year event. 10 days later, we had over 3 inches dumped an hour on Central Park, and our city was flooded. And that just was a warning shot. I mean, it was just extraordinary what we went through. And what is seared in my memory is not the Niagara Falls opening up and insane amount of rainfall hitting our streets, but the aftermath. When I walked through the streets of Queens, and sadly it was Elmhurst, which had been the epicenter of the global pandemic for a long time, so this community had been hit hard. And I walked down an alleyway and I saw the people just picking up the pieces of their lives, the ones who were lucky enough to have survived, I'm talking about, because people literally saw the water rushing into their homes. They lived in basement homes, and there was no escape route out the back. We had 12.5 people lose their lives in this environment. So you talk about my priorities, why I'm so intent on making sure we get this right. I will never forget the images of those people trying to pick up the little piece of their lives, literally picking up baby shoes off the floor and washing them in a bucket of dirty water so their child didn't go barefoot in the city of New York. So we're here. And I do believe that there are opportunities lying before us, and we just have to have the courage to seize them. And I'm not afraid of a fight. New Yorkers are not afraid of a fight. And this is the existential fight of our time. You cannot dispute that. And I believe that every child deserves to grow up with clean air, clean water, clean life. And we owe that to them as adults. And I wish someone had felt they owed it to us when I was a child. And that's the wrong I want to correct here. So New York will lead in the green energy economy and good-paying jobs. And I'm not just talking about good-paying jobs for people that you normally think of in these industries. I want to make sure that these jobs are populated by people from the most underserved communities in our state. This is how we put them on a trajectory of having good, sustainable jobs that'll be there in the future, that they can support their families and lift themselves out of poverty because we got them into a job training program. We got them a mentor from a company that's investing in clean energy. I believe we will do that, and we'll do it very successfully. So we know it. Thank you. Let's give that a round of applause. I want every state to do this. But here's what we're going to do, and I'm going to make some announcements here, because I could tell you stories all day, but I won't do that. I know you've got other really important people to hear from. We're going to take some major steps to build a more resilient New York and accelerate our progress toward nation-leading emissions goals. I already signed into law, again, on the job 4 weeks here. I'll tell you what I've done in 4 weeks. We are accelerating the transition to more zero-emission vehicles in New York by 2035. Less than 15 years from now, we'll have zero-emission vehicles Over 1 million vehicles will be on our roads by 2035, and I'm excited about this. We are continuing to invest in electric vehicles. I'm going to give you a little quiz here. Where was the first electric vehicle invented? Buffalo. Design. It was called the Buffalo Electric Vehicle Company, built in, and I'll tell you, it's a sad story, you can look it up, but that would have been the wave of the future, because it was hard for women to go out on the Sunday drive with their big gowns on to drive the new vehicles. They wanted a little freedom from their husbands. Maybe the guys are home watching football, I don't know, but they wanted to get out, and it was easier for them to crank up an electric vehicle than to do it otherwise. So they invented these, but then the big oil companies came in and convinced everybody that that was so ridiculous to go electric vehicles, let's do oil. So imagine the world we would have had if people had listened to the folks in Buffalo. I digress. We are now on par with California with respect to our zero-emission vehicles. And when you take the power of New York and the power of California, that's over 58 million people who will now be leading the way toward more electric vehicles on our roads by 2035. We also will be accelerating the zero-emission truck sales on our streets. We also invested, and I mentioned this a little bit earlier, we've invested money. I don't just say we're going to hire more people from underserved communities. We invested $6 million to launch the Climate Justice Fellowship, which supports fellowships to get people in disadvantaged communities to support clean energy efforts and get people jobs. We also partnered with New York City on a $24 million program to fund electrification in New York City's affordable housing. This is transformative. We need to do much more of this in the housing stock that needs a lot of work, but let's make sure that we are electrifying it in a clean way. We also committed $107 million to start construction on Staten Island's Living Breakwaters Coastal Resiliency Project, because the next storm they will not be able to survive if we do not make these investments now. We're going to do that. And let's get excited about solar goals. That's all my first month, but right now, I said, what are we doing today, folks? Okay, we got another day. Time's slipping fast. You know, we have to save the planet now. I'm launching 2 major steps to accelerate the transition into a cleaner, greener future. And I told you we're kind of ambitious here. We're not content to be nation leading anymore. We want to be global leading. And that means setting even more ambitious goals. We're going all in on solar, and our landmark 2019 climate leadership. You ought to clap. Go ahead. Now, where I live, I don't see a lot of sun, but that's okay. You know, I think it's going to work. The Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act set an aggressive goal of producing 6 gigawatts of electricity from solar by 2025. But the good news is we're almost there already. 2025, we're going to beat that by years. So I said, okay, that's not good enough. So today I'm announcing we're going to double down and expand that goal to build out at least 10 gigawatts of solar by 2030. No one said we're going to do that before. I'm saying it right here, right now. We're going to get it done. I've directed NYSERDA to develop a solar roadmap to find our way there and focus on disadvantaged and low-income communities. And what excites me the most, we're going to have over 20,000 brand new jobs in the solar industry alone. This will result in powering over 1.7 million homes and save our customers $880 million, along with $9 billion in private investment. And I want to thank the team from the state of New York, Doreen Harris and New York Sun, for all the work they've done to achieve. Let's give them a round of applause. These are the visionaries who are part of your state workforce who get things done, and I'm so proud to be associated with all of them. But here's another announcement for you. Transmission award. Everybody's been wondering what we're going to do about this. We need to build new sources of renewable energy. And how do we bring all that clean energy, renewable energy, which is largely in upstate? Geographically, it's mostly upstate, but the population is right here. How do we get it down to New York City where the needs are the greatest? And right now, because of that disconnect, New York City has had to rely so heavily on fossil fuels because it's not hooked up to renewable sources upstate. And many of those fossil fuel polluting, those plants are in black and brown and low-income communities all around the city. They're everywhere. And we're going to fix that. Let's turn the page on the city's long-standing reliance on fossil fuels and bring new jobs instead to those communities. So right now we were reviewing, this is what we were doing just last week, we were reviewing various contracts that were out there. We did a bid for proposals to bring a plentiful supply of clean, renewable power into the city. Got down to the final two. People are traditionally going to pick one or the other, right? And I ask simple questions. Why not both? Why not do both? I mean, why would we do one now, see how it works, and then do the other one maybe in a decade or so? I say if we're really serious about getting the job done and relying less on fossil, never on fossils, and more on renewables, let's do both together. So today I'm announcing we're awarding not one, but two contracts that'll absolutely accomplish these goals. First, a new 174-mile new transmission project that'll go from Delaware County to the Rainey substation in Queens. And secondly, a 339-mile new transmission project that'll extend from Quebec in Canada all the way to the Astoria substation in Queens. These historic projects will pair wind, solar, and hydropower, will be brought from upstate in Canada to service and bring nearly 18 million megawatt hours of renewable energy to New York City annually, enough to power 2.5 million homes a year. Think of these as two extension cords. Thank you. And those of you who need a simple image, because, well, you actually know in this, you're all really smart, but just extension cords. We're bringing extension cords down the state and plugging them into New York, okay? This is exciting. This is exciting to power homes and businesses all over. And, you know, my favorite topic, creating more jobs, over 10,000 good-paying jobs, attracting billions of dollars in private investment. And finally, this will play a major role in allowing New York City to retire its reliance on fossil fuel plants that have been polluting too many parts of our city. We're going to get that done. We're going to get it done as soon as we can. We'll be shutting down unhealthy facilities like the Astoria facility, which is known as, in the part of the city known as Asthma Alley. Okay. We're also beginning the process to transition from dirty power plants like the Big Alice. Okay, if you live in New York City, you know what I'm talking about. These will be sent to the Public Service Commission, and we're going to make sure that we do this in a smart way, sensitive to the environmental habitats along the way, and make sure we're investing more clean money here. It's impossible to overstate how important that is for New York City. As we left reliance on Indian Point nuclear power, and we're transitioning to wind, solar, and hydropower, this is a major, major initiative to deliver clean, healthier air and more electricity to New York City. And so, I think that's all I have for announcements. We can talk about my predictions for the next thing. But just to wrap up, my friends, I will continue to be as bold as I possibly can. You bring before me the ideas that come out of a conference like this and say, this is how we can lead our way into the energy future, create jobs, and make up for all the past destruction of beautiful neighborhoods where children are still growing up with environmental crises like I did as a child. I want to fix that, and I'm impatient. That's one thing you'll know about me. I'm very impatient. So I hope that you'll see that New York State is not just talking the talk, but we're going to walk the walk, and we're going to make sure we get this done. And someday, when my father's 85 years old, I'm going to say, Dad, I know we had that conversation a long time ago, how people were able to live like that. I am not a grandma yet, hope to be soon, but I want my grandchildren to never have that question asked of me. How did you let that happen when you were in charge of things? How did you let that happen to our environment, Grandma? I'm not going to have to answer that question because we're going to get it right this time. And we're going to make up for a lot of harm that was done in the past, but I'm excited. I am fired up to help lead the energy revolution, the green revolution, because it's long overdue, my friends, and you are part of the solution. Thank you very much.